Hey there and happy Friday. Welcome. Let me just share my screen right here. Let me adjust my mic a little bit. New green screen today, so hopefully you like that. Let's see, we're having a little bit of visual conflict. I'll have to replace that. And let's see. There we go. Ready to start. Gosh, today we have a good one for you. This is the Ask Self Recruiter live stream Q&A. So first off, make sure you're getting your questions answered. The whole series is over on my Self Recruiter YouTube channel. If you're not getting your questions answered, send them in to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. And I'd be happy to include the very best questions in each session. Right now, this is the 13th episode. They're all collecting over my YouTube channel. It really becomes a wonderful library that solves a lot of questions we have in job search. So if you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. All the rest of that is over in my other videos. We'll leave that to there. Let's jump right into today's questions. There's so many questions when we go after a new job. And today we're going to focus 15 questions on getting a promotion. Let's take the very first question. My boss didn't mention a pay increase. Should I ask? Yes. Yes, by all means. Oftentimes we get a promotion and we naturally assume there's going to be some change in something, but certainly earnings. If our responsibility is changing, if our deliverables are changing, expectations are changing, there should be a reward benefit to that. So absolutely you should ask, and I would do your research ahead of time to figure out what you should be being paid based on the opportunity. Next question. How to find out if there are any additional work benefits? You know, when we get a promotion, oftentimes we forget about this. As you move up the food chain, there are certain training and educational opportunities that may become open to you. Certain companies may even pay for your degree or those types of things once you reach management level. So do be sure to ask. And they may have a separate budget if you have individual training that you have your eye on that could be really good in increasing your own skill set and, of course, your own brand at the same time. So be sure to ask. Very likely they may have something. Next question. How will my immediate focus shift? This is really a great question because as you're being promoted, they tend to would like whatever you're leaving behind to stay in pretty good shape. Now, they're going to have to get a replacement for you. Immediately, you're probably going to have to wear multiple hats. And we really want to know what their whole strategy is. I hope their strategy just isn't to promote you to a new title to then continue to do all of the workload. Hopefully, you're replacing yourself. So this immediate focus question can open up a lot of discussion as to where is this promotion going and what is really open to me for the future. Next question. How do I find out what my typical day in the new role, or how do I find out about it? Best way is just to ask. And really, that's the great language. As you're deep in discussion and you're talking about the different things that your manager might like from you in this promotion or having you move into this new role, just casually ask them, Jack, Jim, Jill, can you walk me through what my typical day or what you would expect my typical day might look like as I step into this new role? Oh, be very aware of everything that they say and what may be different than you have experienced in the past. And don't forget to explore areas in that conversation if you have further questions. Good sense of the typical day. Now, do I think it will be exactly like they sketch it out? Probably not. Probably not. A little bit of that and a lot of other different things. You're going to have to discover that along the way as well. Next question. How do I uncover the biggest challenges facing this role? And I need a little sip of coffee. Didn't get my second morning coffee right before lecture. Sorry about that. The biggest challenges. The biggest challenges, really come from problem-solving questions. As you're discussing your move into the new role with your manager, bring this up. Frame it. Jack, Jim, or Jill. First off, I'm very excited to move into the new role. What do you see from your perspective, your opinion? What are the toughest challenges facing this role? Now, what they're likely going to tell you is something along the lines of why this particular role is open. A role can only be open for a few different reasons. Either it's expansion, and that's terrific, it's growth. Person left on their own. Person might have left on their own. Now, if they left on their own, when do you think they really stop doing their work? You could have things about to collapse here that the company doesn't even realize. Or they could have been promoted. And if they got promoted, what do you think the state of their work product, their deliverables is? Probably pretty good. And I bet you they'd like that legacy, that momentum to continue. So this is a great subject to talk about. And there may be things in there that your boss will indicate that really point toward the thornier things that you have to address as you take on this new challenge. Let's go to our next question here. What's the career path for this role? And where can I go from this role? Really, it's the same question. We piggyback these together. Understanding the career path is about not ending up at a dead end. There are certain roles where you may get promoted to a certain level, and then that is the plateau of that particular function. If they have their eyes on you as the best thing in that function, they also may be looking at you a little bit like a houseplant. And we'll get the houseplant in the nice area over by the window, the extra lighting. We'll give it some water and some nutrients, and then we're just going to leave it alone. Don't disturb it, and let it continue to grow and deliver. Understanding the career path will open up your eyes as to where you can go from here. If it is a dead end within your company, then turn the question around and say, well, Jack, Jim, Jill, help me understand what's the advantage for my career in moving into this role. That's another way for them to potentially connect the dots as to how this could leapfrog to some new role that may be beyond this track. There still could be a great future, maybe just not down this specific track. What training can be available for the new role? This is beyond the benefit piece. They may have or may be willing to dip into their funds to actually send you for some enhanced training. Look at the new role, look at your skill set, look at where you feel slightly challenged without really disclosing all that, of course, to your boss. But talk about how you may, looking at the deliverables and the expectations for this role, you'd really like to sharpen your skills in A and B. Might there be some funding for some additional training on that, where you could really become the champion of that skill? Remember, they're not afraid to spend money on training for you as long as you're really going to earn it and bring that skill right back here. So don't be afraid to ask about that. Who will I be reporting to, and who will be reporting to me, and how do I find that out? Again, best way is to ask it in conversation. We're really quite shy and so scared about some of the conversations that we have, but really this is going to lay out a lot of the stuff behind the scenes so you don't get surprised at the 11th hour. Quite often, sometimes you may talk to a certain individual about this particular promoted role they'd like to go into, and then suddenly you arrive there and the reporting structure is completely different. That may point to some reorganization problems that are ongoing and internal, but definitely find out in advance how the reporting structure is looking like it's going to be laid out so that you can take advantage and think about exactly who all the different players are. Who are the players you have to report into, and who are the players on your team that you're going to have to mentor and develop and get ready to follow in your path. Very, very important to know. Next question, how will my performance be measured, and what are my top goals? Right up front, before you step into the job. This promotion represents a wonderful opportunity for you, but not if you're judged in the wrong ways, and not if you don't understand how you're being judged in the first place. To win the game, you have to understand the rules of the game. That's why we have to know how the performance will be measured, and really what are the most critical goals in their eyes, not our eyes, in their eyes. From that, you'll be able to prioritize, stack rank, really decide how to split whatever resources you may have available, be they individual resources or human capital resources, and figure out how I'm going to meet every one of those top goals. Very, very important to success. Next question, how will my role change, or how will this role change my work-life balance? This can be tricky. if you work at a certain type of company, and I work with clients that work across all fields, there are certain organizations that are incredibly driven. So driven, well, I won't call out any by name here, but I think you know a few of those even off the top of our head. You are expected to run at about 110 or 120% at your work. And then if you want to go home and play, you can go home and play like a, 100% or 80% or whatever, but you have to be full force all the time. This may or may not be that for you. You do want to ask this question, but you want to ask it in a way that doesn't scare them away. Like, well, Jack, Jim, or Jill, how would this affect my work-life balance? I think we may have made the wrong decision. We didn't choose the right one here. So let's be really careful in how you phrase it, how you engage, and how you build up to really finding these work-life balance things. But the pandemic has pointed out work-life balance is incredibly important. Next question. How much control will I have on staffing decisions? Wow. How many people don't ask this? They have all these wonderful visions of what they're going to do. Oh, it's going to be so fantastic as I move into this. Fantastic, fantastic. They get into the role, all these master plans, and then they can't make staffing changes. Now, I'm working with a client right now who, when I look at their team, and they're considering making a move, when I look at their team, two of the key players, not the ultimate leader, but two of the key players on the team, not the team that reports into them, their peer team, two of the key players are simply not qualified for the roles. Oh, yes, absolutely. They bring a part of that background to the table. I don't know how they would have gotten the conversation otherwise. But somehow in the conversation, they were able to colorize their background in a certain way that made them look as if they were an expert. And they're really not an expert because it's painfully obvious after the fact. If you have a team like this or peers like this, and suddenly you're going to be promoted up to be, there, and you go, great, I want to change part of this team to fix the problem. If your hands are handcuffed on staffing decisions, that's not going to work for you. So do have this discussion up front. And if there is some stuff that you have to negotiate back and forth as to what the issues really are behind the scenes with your manager, this is a great time to talk about it and maybe really get them off the hook for the personnel choices, and maybe you make those choices yourself. Next question, why did the prior manager leave? Why is there an opening? Really, these are two sides of the same coin. What does this tell us? Well, I think I already spelled it out a little bit earlier. If they left on their own, so I'm guessing at this point in your career, you've probably left on your own, quit a job to go take a new job. So first off, when did you start looking for that new job? Well, most people start looking for that new job 4 or 5 months before they actually land it. So my second question really is, when did you stop doing your work? Was that 30 days ago, 60 days ago, 90 days ago? I mean, are you just hiding and looking like your deliverable thing is all in full motion, but you're all focused on exiting? So why the manager left is very, very important. The company may not even be aware of the potential pitfalls and damage that could be just behind that beautiful facade. Of course, if they got promoted, they might want all their wonderful efforts to continue forward. They need a person that can pick up, not lose momentum, and keep it all moving forward. That's a different thing. And if the person got fired, you're in a very unique place, because while they won't really want to talk about why they fired them, why was that person let go? I don't think that's appropriate that I talk about that. Absolutely, Jack, Jim, or Jill. Let me ask you a different question. What are you looking to be different? What would you like to see changed? What different results are you after as I step into this role? And then they'll tell you exactly why that person got fired, which will tell you the critical elements that you need to focus on in top priority so you don't end up with the same fate. Next question, how should I manage my manager? Delicately. This goes to our interpersonal skills and our emotional intelligence quotient that I talk about in a lot of my lectures. That is very different person to person. So it's really hard for me to say this is exactly how you should manage them, but you're going to have to engage them in a way that's a partnership. It's not adversarial, it's a partnership. So when I look to my manager and I'm trying to manage as a puppet master, my manager, I have to think about what are their deliverables? What are their expectations? How do I meet those things? In fact, how do I knock it just a little bit further out of the ballpark than they might have expected? And then begin to touch base on a regular basis to check in, make sure your deliverables are in line with their expectations, and really it hasn't shifted or they didn't miscommunicate them to you in the first place. Partner strongly and share every win with your manager. Very, very important. Next question. I received a promotion, but I could get a better offer at a competitor. What should I do? So many things to think about here. Well, one thing you certainly could do is go and talk to the competitor. In fact, if you're receiving a promotion here, I'm not sure why you haven't already talked to the competitor, or at least upon hearing about the promotion, maybe pick up that phone or an email and you reach out to the competitor and start a discussion. That's one way to understand what you should be being paid. Also, that might really even give you the ammunition, because you could get an offer from that competitor, or you could go in and interview with the competitor and understand their salary range, which suddenly is different than you're being offered in your current company. When you come back to that discussion with your manager, you're now better equipped to talk about that. You know, Jack, Jim, or Jill, from my research and what I see out there in competitive roles, this role should have this type of compensation with it. How do I move my compensation to that level? When you want to get what you want, it's always the collective we. We're problem solving together. How do I move my earnings level to that level? Let's think about that. One thing to do is simply tell them. And if you're not going to get what you need here, are you willing to make that change? Jack, Jim, or Jill, I would really love to keep my career centered here. It's been a wonderful place for my home, but actually I can get $22,000 more if I go to the competitor, and I would love to be able to stay here. What can we do to solve that financial gap? Notice that it's not a fight. You're not paying me enough. They are paying you as much as they'd like. They really only want to pay you what you need. But the moment you see a competitor paying much more and you're losing money, that becomes a need. Don't be afraid to have that conversation. But it's a date still, so be gentle and win them over. Maybe even stick them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes, living vicariously, and ask them how they might have felt if they suddenly realized their same role at the competitor was earning $22,000 more. I'm just trying to keep myself, my family financially whole. Magical phrase. Next question. Can I turn down a promotion and still keep my current role? Maybe. Yes, in most cases, but maybe, because this is an emotional thing. They may have behind the scenes, up the ladder in those meetings, the leadership team meetings, they may have already played this chess game out on their master board, and they have this plan for you, and they may be quite disappointed if you don't take this role. So the wrong type of person could end up losing their job in that situation. You can be really, really careful. Mostly it's if you want to keep your role and not take their promotion, you can't forget it's a date, even when they're offering the promotion. Oh, Jack, Jim, Jill, I have to say I'm very, very proud and thankful that you've offered this promotion to me. But my heart and really my pleasure in all my work, what I really love to do is the function I'm currently in. I would love to stay in this role, really continuing to knock it out of the ballpark. But I really do appreciate the offer. Take the high road. Nobody wants to really lose a great performer. And if you really want to stay in this role, they want to keep you there. It's like watering that beautiful house plant over in the corner by the window. That's 15 questions, all on getting a promotion. This is the Ask Self Recruiter live stream Q&A. If you're not getting your job search questions answered, send them in. Send them in to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. All the best questions are collected for each one of these episodes. Join in. It becomes a wonderful, really self-help tutorial library. It exists over on my Self Recruiter YouTube channel, and tune in On Monday, I'll be presenting Charting Your Career Transition. That's my 11 a.m. lecture on Monday. Now, take control of the discussion about you. If your career brand is suffering, take the first step or the next step and fix the problem. Fix your story across your resume, your LinkedIn profile. And if you need to work with really a sharp career coach that can really help you navigate the different challenges you may be facing and can lift your career brand, I think you already know where to go. Check out the Self Recruiter website. All my services are under the services tab. And if you need to talk before you know which package is right for you, send a quick email and we'll set up a time to talk. Hope you guys have a great start to your weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Take care.